Hi, I'm Alexa Rowe with Fortinet, and today I'm joined by Jonathan Nguyen, Vice President of Strategy here at Fortinet. And Jonathan, you're an industry veteran. You've been in the industry 20 years, and it's only about 25 years old. What are some things that CISOs need to know about, but maybe they don't?
Sure. So, if there were three things that I've learned in those 25 years that could really help out CISOs and their teams, and just security people in general to become more effective in their security approaches, is multi-factor authentication is one aspect. Making it more difficult for threat actors and insiders to gain access, right? Things you have, things you know. Multi-factor authentication, in my experience and research, would mitigate about 25% of the attacks that ultimately lead to a data breach. The second one, a very rigorous approach around application vulnerability management, right? Identifying and mitigating and patching vulnerabilities in applications goes a long way. In fact, it would mitigate another 25%. So now you're 48 to 50% of all attacks that lead to data breaches can be mitigated to two things. Finally, I would add security awareness training. Do that and help employees thwart the number one vector of cyber threats, which is email. And then you get to about a total effectiveness rate of 75 to 80%. Those three things, those really simple to intermediate controls, would effectively get you to about a 75, 80% effectiveness rate, which gives you as a CISO and a team the ability to focus in on the known unknowns, right? The more advanced threats. But if we could simply go about and implement a more rigorous approach towards cyber hygiene, we'd be a lot more effective and save a lot of more money and move more quickly. Three things relatively simple to do that a lot of people just really underestimate.
And CISO, being a CISO today is probably very different from a couple years ago. How has that kind of role transitioned?
So that role is expanding and changing every time. So right now the current estimates is that by 2021, there'll be a shortage of about 3.5 million security workers. Given that there are only 22,000 companies in the Fortune 2000, that's roughly what, 2,000 high-level, executive-level CISOs
they're pretty valuable,
in the world. So the CISO's roles are changing. They're increasingly non-technical in many ways. I think one of the things they never tell you about is that once you become a CISO, a large part of your job is helping the organization understand relatively complicated and complex ideas, the ability to move beyond compliance, but to help them establish a reasonable level of due care so that effective security becomes a day. Also, it comes across the managing security across that organization. I think a lot of people who become CISOs are surprised by the amount of organizational dynamics and politics and management and the need to understand the other aspects of the business, the marketing, to understand what the CFO's concerns are, to understand what the CMO's concerns are, to help translate those business objectives into security objectives and security strategies that are then implemented by the IT side of the house. I think a lot of people are quite surprised by that, but it really requires a more fully rounded CISO, and I think we're seeing more of that today.
And so you've obviously had a lot of experience in the industry. What kind of advice would you give to CISOs both new and old?
I think for folks who are coming up, don't be shy about asking for help. I have been really I'm grateful for the shoulders I stand upon. There were key individuals at every stage of my career who were extraordinarily generous with their time and with their connections and confidence in me. And so one of the things I do is, I mentor, I pass that forward. Don't be shy about asking for advice. The industry as a whole is 25 to 30 years old. There are very, very few people with 20 plus years of experience. And I think we all share from that. We all have the social responsibility as professionals to push people along as well. So don't be shy about asking for mentors and mentorships. You'll find a lot of people very supportive about that. I think for the folks who are experienced, don't forget the basics. We talk about cloud and digital transformation.
But what is it
But at the end of the day, it's still confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. The foundational skills that we came up along the way are still as relevant today as they were before. The operating environment is more complex, but I think all of us, as long as we keep our foundations planted around that, we'll do well.
And just what are your final thoughts with that? How does Fortinet play into all of that there?
Yeah, so I came to Fortinet because of the idea of the security fabric. So the security fabric is what all CISOs since time immemorial, which for me was 1997, I've been trying to do. We have been cobbling together devices that would collect, share, and integrate and use data. And we went from packet filtering firewalls, to stateful firewalls, to intrusion detection and prevention. We went from SEM to SIEM, then we deployed sandboxes, which were called dynamic malware inspection. And when none of that worked, we developed analytics, and then we got UEBA and all types of tools.
We've come a long way.
But what we were really trying to do was trying to cobble together a bunch of third-party products, hope to God that they would all work under an actual attack.
Cross our fingers.
Cross our fingers. And what Fortinet does better than anybody else is that it delivers that out-of-the-box capability in the security fabric. A suite of best-in-class products fully demonstrated by the analyst community, adopted across the public sector governments of the world, the Fortune 500, et cetera, all proven at that level, designed to work out of the box as an integrated framework, right? And so what it does is that it manages complexity. It takes the burden of third-party technology integration and QA off that CISO team's shoulders so they can focus on doing what they need to do, which is the operational environment. So the reason I like Fortinet so much is that it really helps them manage that complexity. And if there's one thing that is the bane of our existence, is the complexity of the modern operating environment.
It's the enemy of security, really.
It is absolutely the enemy of security, right? That's what keeps people up at night. It's what is it that they're missing? What anomalous behavior in their systems and their networks that they've missed? What controls are no longer relevant? How many of those firewall policy rules are no longer relevant? What am I missing, right? And the ability to understand that in a single pane of glass across an integrated security fabric really is what sets Fortinet apart.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
And we'll stay out for more tips and tricks from you later on.
Oh, it's fabulous. Thank you.
Great.